Welcome back to One on One. Brian Rabacs alongside Maddie Bimonte. We're pleased to be joined by Justin Shackil, WFUV class of 2009. Justin has worked as a digital scoreboard host for the New York Yankees, host of the Towing the Slab podcast for John Boy Media, and you may recognize his voice from WFAN as he's recently served as the fill-in Yankee radio play-by-play voice on WFAN. Justin, it's always great to talk to WFUV alum, and we know you're incredibly busy calling games every day now for the past couple of weeks, so we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Brian, Maddie, thanks so much for having me on here, and I love to see what you and the rest of the WFUV sports crew continues to do. Super impressive, and yeah, thanks for having me on.
Of course. So I want to start with what you're doing right now as the Yankees fill-in play-by-play voice. You made your Yankee play-by-play debut last June and have since seen an increased role in that, as I mentioned, consistently calling games now for the past couple of weeks, ever since the Tampa series. So if you just take me through what that experience has been like and what it's meant for you to get that opportunity.
The experience has been absolutely surreal. Starting last year, like you said, then moving into a post-game hosting role this season. I knew I was going to be filling in for John Sterling. There was a road trip that we were just on that was, scheduled way before the season. But there have been a few games now where I've been filling in, kind of on a day-to-day basis, and getting word on a day-to-day basis too that I'd be filling in. So it's fun because it doesn't allow you to have really any time to think. You have to trust your instincts, and a lot of those instincts were kind of created in the seat that you guys are sitting in now. So from a time when I was at Fordham, this was a spot that I could only dreamed of. Um, and here I am. I mean, it's just a surreal feeling growing up a Yankee fan, covering the Yankees while I was at WFUV, and then working through the minors, working several different jobs, obviously with the Yankees in a variety of roles the last several years. But to be in that chair, it's I keep going back to that word. It's surreal.
Yeah, and you mentioned WFUV and your time there. And now that we're here and we've developed our time, we're just wondering, did you always know this was the path you wanted to be on when you were in college, or did it take some time for you at the station to kind of figure out what you were interested in?
No, I knew I wanted to do baseball before I got to WFUV. And when I was there, Bob Aarons was still running things. And I remember first meeting him, and I kind of told him that. I'm like, hey, like, this is amazing. I love the facilities, everything you guys have going on here. I'm just really interested in doing baseball play by play, and that's all I want to do. Well, he said, well, that's not really how it works around here. And in order to do baseball, I really think that you should start calling college basketball on the radio, because basketball lays a great foundation for play-by-play skills. There's a lot of action, there's some downtime, and you're constantly describing. So it's fast-paced, and it really is. I think basketball play-by-play on the radio is a perfect training ground to get someone initiated into the craft of play-by-play. So that's how it kind of started. But I did always know that I wanted to work in baseball full time.
And with you working baseball now, serving as the fill-in play-by-play voice with the Yankees, filling in for John Sterling, I'm curious as to what your relationship with John is and how he's been able to help you through this process so far.
So John, he kind of pulled me aside when I was hired as the post game host before this year, and the biggest piece of advice that he gave me was, hey, just do it your way. Like, basically trust yourself to do it your way. He said, I've been doing it my way for as long as I've been here. It's obviously served him well, but you need to do it your own way. So I think that just kind of doubled down something that I feel like a lot of us take away for me from my time at WFUV, because I remember Vince Scully pretty much saying, hey, the most important thing that you can bring into the broadcast booth that nobody else can is yourself. So you have to constantly remind yourself that, because when you're young, you're starting out, you have people that you listen to and you like listening to for certain reasons. And sometimes, it's kind of maybe human nature when you're young and starting out, you're naturally gonna try and sound like them. Once you break that habit and discover your own sound, your own voice, your own way, your cadence, your rhythm, you can still take those ingredients that you like from the people that you admire and listen to, but you can kind of make it your own. So that's obviously what I've been working on. Just staying true to myself, trust my own abilities, and to have that reminder from John was nice to hear at the start of the season.
And to follow up from what you've learned from John, you've also been able to work with Susan Waldman directly on these broadcasts, who carries a lot of experience in herself. So how's it been like working with Susan through these last couple of weeks?
Yeah, Susan's seen everything. She is the best in terms of information, and I kind of equate it like I'm calling baseball games with my cool aunt. You know, she's seen everything. You could kind of bounce anything off of her. There's no awkwardness, and I love it. Honestly, I love the age gap because it allows me to kind of bounce anything off of her. She's either gonna take it two ways, maybe poo-poo it or fully embrace it. And sometimes one has happened and it's kind of surprised me because I was expecting the other. But either way, you got to find a way to react. And I think she's so endearing. And like I said, she has a wealth of knowledge. She's been watching the game, longer than I've been alive. She's been, working on air, covering the Yankees pretty much longer than I've been alive. So she's been a terrific resource, and I love the time we have between the first and last pitch of games.
Yeah, Justin, listening to your broadcasts, I speak for myself and probably many others. I think the biggest thing about you is you make it look so easy. It looks almost natural and crazy great. I do want to know what took you the longest thing. What was the longest point that took you to develop your play-by-play skills? What was that one thing that really took you some time to develop and really get to know about the game?
I think for me it was finding my sound, how to use my voice like as an instrument. I think we're going into the weeds here, but um, like I was saying, staying true to yourself, but using your all your tools in the toolbox to their fullest potential. So I when I was younger, I had called minor league baseball for 5 years. I remember someone in the business was very candid with me, and thankfully they were, but they pretty much said, hey, I recommend you go and seek out a voice coach. Otherwise, I don't think you should, you probably won't be lasting long in this industry. And I I heard what they were saying. I didn't agree with it at the time, but I heard what they were saying and I took their advice and I did seek out a voice coach and I learned how to maybe, properly, like I said, use the voice, speak from the diaphragm, right? Like an opera singer does, or any type of singer for that matter. But there were certain techniques uh, that you learn from other people because they're experts in sound and how to use your voice as an instrument and take care of it and reach certain levels that you might not know exist. So all that intertwined, and then again it goes back to the reps of just being on the air and refining those skills, blending everything together, and it's eventually one finished product through time and reps. It's all it takes. This is a craft, right? Like being a broadcaster is a craft. It's no different than being a piano player or a plumber, or a painter. Like you get better by putting in the time. So this is just the result, I guess, of reps.
We're joined here on one with Justin Shackil. Justin, I want to allude to something that you mentioned earlier of always wanting to work in baseball. And I read an article that mentioned how you were willing to go anywhere to do it. But now that you've ended up where you are in the seat that you're in with the Yankees, could you imagine being anywhere else? How grateful are you that you've been able to not only work in baseball, but to be here in New York, in the Bronx with the Yankees?
The short answer is no. I couldn't have imagined this, and there's no other place I would rather be. It is true, as a young broadcaster, you go where the jobs are. And look, there are only 30, maybe, if you want to do the math, say there's 2 radio announcers for each major league team. So 30 times 2, maybe 60 jobs like this in the world. You can't nitpick, you can't be fussy. Beggars can't be choosers. But to be able to do it for the team that I grew up rooting for, learning the game by watching with family members, it does mean so much to me. And the fact that, yeah, I did pick up and move when I was doing minor league baseball, but the fact that I'm doing this in my backyard is something that I know not a lot of people are fortunate and lucky enough to do. So I'm really grateful. I remind myself periodically about that because it is important. And I cannot believe that the Yankee Stadium radio booth, whether it is filling in for John, whether it is hosting post games, that's my office. It never leaves me when I go to work each day.
Thank you, Justin, for all of you talked about today. But I do have one more question. I want to just kind of cap this off with what can you give advice-wise to some of our recent graduates at WFUV or any recent graduates in the industry that want to get into sports media more?
I think if you can identify what you exactly want to do, whether it's on the air, behind the scenes, whatever, go wherever those opportunities to get reps are, go there. So if you want to be on the air, and look, there probably aren't going to be opportunities on air in New York City for a 22, 23-year-old. I went to places like Knoxville, Tennessee, and Mobile, Alabama, calling minor league baseball games. Those were where the reps were. And you could kind of compare it to maybe being a minor league baseball player. What's the most important time as far as their development? It's when they're 22, 23 years of age. Those reps are invaluable. So you want to try and do that at a young age. If you want to be the best board op, if you want to be the best director, best producer, go where the opportunities are when you just get out of school. Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone. Try different things. I never envisioned myself living in the South, but there I was, and it's some of the best years that I've ever had in my life. So don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone, try new things, and you just might enjoy it. You might find a new passion.
Justin, thank you so much for coming on with us today once again, and best of luck to whatever comes up to you in your future.
Brian, Maddie, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We'll be back with more one-on-one after the break.